Ryan also made fun of Finn for being Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me when we need it on?
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you everyone for coming this morning. I want to introduce, my name's Alan Mortensen. I represent Finn Richardson here, who had his birthday yesterday, turned 18, and Meg Appelgate, who's here on behalf of her organization, and she'll be speaking to us about the problem in Utah with the troubled teen industry. I will get this over to Finn. And Finn's got a statement that he's prepared and would like to read.
Yeah, so first of all, good morning. It's so nice to talk with you all. You guys have probably heard a lot, but my name is Finn. I'm here with you all today to talk about my story as a survivor of elevations. And I know that's a story that for a lot of you probably know all too well. But before I start, I just kind of want to tell you guys about how my stay at elevations came to be. So I was sent to elevations when I was 15 by my father, who would abuse me throughout my childhood because of my desire to live with my mom and the fact that I identified as gay. I left my dad's house in the summer of 2021 because he had sexually assaulted me in some sort of way to control me. And your life ended. And I wanted to be in a safe place, which angered him, and essentially he said I was going to be sent away as a means to get my act together. I was abducted one night by two men whose names I never learned and I still never know. And they whisked me off to Utah, where I am today. They drove me, and the only view that I saw was mountains covered in smoke by the wildfire season that year. They drove me down a tar black road to an isolated place of a building that was labeled Elevations Residential Treatment Center. I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know what an RTC was or what I was getting myself into. The only thing I was sure of was the dread that was rising in my stomach when they forced me inside. When I walked in, iron doors shut behind me, and I walked into a grayscale hall where I was taken by two staff to the bathroom, stripped of my clothes, forced into a shower, and searched. In short, I was stripped of my dignity. Then I shrank myself to a plastic bed that was barely bigger than my body, and I completely broke down. I knew in this moment that I had been truly betrayed by my father, that this is what he wanted to happen to me, for all my cries to fall behind deaf ears in a place where no one would hear me. I stopped crying when a man entered the door, a man who many of you probably know. His name is Ryan Faust. Ryan Faust said that he was going to be my therapist and that his job was to help me get out of here in a healthy and safe way. He told me that to leave, I had to go out what he called the front door, which essentially was obeying the center's wishes and the whims of my father. So essentially doing what my father wanted and to be obedient to him and to not say anything about what he had done to me. More importantly, he told me that if I went throughout the back door, i.e. not following the program's wishes or wanting to live with my mom, as in not listening to my father, it would prolong my stay and it would be harder for me to leave. I knew in that moment that I had no support here. I soon learned that Elevations was not what I thought it was cut out to be. My days consisted of monotony. And I'm going to say we instead of I, because I know as survivors that many of us have experienced these same conditions and in the same place. We were condemned to days that lacked activity, empty time where we were forced to sink deeper and deeper into the realization that we were prisoners here by the systematic betrayal of our parents. And when we did have activity, it was always for the purpose of reminding us how much of inmates we were. We were encouraged to put each other down. We were encouraged to rat on each other for our own benefit, hoping we would get released. At every given group therapy session, at every so-called therapeutic activity, we were constantly reminded that we were sick beyond repair, how we'd failed to fulfill the wishes of our parents. This is what Elevations wanted from us. At Elevations, the only thing we really had was each other. And my friends at Elevations became some of the most important people in my life to this day. In fact, One of my closest friends at Elevations was one of the first people I opened up to about the sexual assault I experienced by my father. When they encouraged me to tell Ryan, he instantly told me that he didn't believe me, and I was treated with disbelief and disdain. He asked me questions, not because he wanted to grasp the situation and try to help as a therapist, but because he wanted to try to catch me in some sort of lie, to expose me, as if I was nothing more than a conniving liar. Throughout my stay, Ryan made sure to taunt me with this. He would tell me all the time that my dad wanted to hug me and squeeze me, and that he loved me, as a way to taunt me and to see how I would react. Ryan liked to see me in distress. He was also sure to frame my mom, the one person I did want to live with, as a deterrent, saying that she was the roadblock to the front door, and that if I followed it, I was going out the back door. Needless to say, Ryan was a man that I dreaded. He was not on my side. He was not a support base for me. He was a man under the guise of a therapist that sought to help me, but really he just wanted to make me helpless. And wanted to catch him in all sorts of things to mock me. Elevations as well wanted to do this to me, as both Ryan and Elevations were willing to testify against me in court for my parents' custody case. My own therapist and center that was supposed to rehabilitate me wanted to testify against me in court that I was sick beyond repair. Elevations as well was sure to reprimand me for when I got a lawyer to fight for my release. They denied contact with him and also my religious freedom to contact a rabbi. They refused it. Elevations also delayed the process of reporting my sexual assault, which my therapist flat out said that he didn't believe and that he was going to hesitate in doing it. Worst of all, I was framed for having COVID by Elevations, and I was placed in solitary confinement for 9 days, right before I was to take a psych eval to determine if I was going to be released or not. Elevations wanted to do this to me. They thought I was a nuisance and they wanted to take it out on me. But I wouldn't let Elevation succeed. And 9 months after my release, a psych evaluation by an independent party determined that I was free to go and that I was completely mentally stable, and that Elevations had wrongfully framed me as well as my father. I left that day on March 15th, 2022, and my life has been different since. I've seen the effects of Elevations and what they've done. I know far too many people who have died, far too many who have fell into drugs, who are homeless, who go back to broken homes that foster the notion that they were sick. And I won't sit down for it anymore. I won't sit and watch this happen to people anymore. And I'm here to say to all the survivors that this is not only my case, but for everyone at Elevations, whether you're dead or alive. It's here for all of us. And I know that Elevations is watching this too. And I want to let you know that you're not going to get away with this like you did with all of the other ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Finn. We'll turn the time over to Meg Appelgate. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Meg Appelgate, and I am the CEO of Unsilenced, a nonprofit organization committed to stopping institutional child abuse. As a survivor of institutional child abuse myself, I can attest to the widespread prevalence of stories like Finn. Unfortunately, Finn's experiences at Elevations RTC are not an isolated incident, but a distressing echo of the experiences of hundreds of thousands of other youth. Finn's ordeal sheds a light on a deeply entrenched systemic problem that I stand before you to address today, the troubled teen industry, and how Utah has become its biggest victim. The troubled teen industry is a network of powerful and punitive congregate care facilities that claim to reform struggling youth through behavior modification practices and other non-evidence-based practices. These underregulated facilities adopt various names, such as boot camps, residential treatment centers, therapeutic or religious boarding schools, and wilderness therapy programs. Those fortunate enough to make it out of these facilities often refer to themselves as survivors, which illustrates the fundamentally flawed nature of these programs. The sheer number of youth caught in the clutches of these facilities is appalling. Despite the lack of required reporting, we estimate that between 120,000 to 200,000 youth are subjected to these environments each year. The financial cost of this problem is staggering, with over $23 billion of federal public funds being funneled into these facilities annually. Unsurprisingly, Finn's story traces back to Utah, a state that has, over the past 50 years, become an unfortunate haven for these facilities. The state's vast landscapes and isolated locations have been exploited to host over 100 youth congregate care facilities today, attracting more children than any other state. It is a perverse economic cycle. Because of each child like Finn, the cost ranges from $5,000 to $15,000 per month, with funding flowing from insurance companies, states, federal funds, and parents. This financial model, while pouring millions into local economies, inadvertently incentivizes programs to keep youth there for as long as possible. Instead of prioritizing treatment or well-being, they are driven by profit. Though these facilities are injecting millions of dollars annually into local economies in Utah, the real cost is far more significant: the emotional and psychological toll on the youth involved. This is something Finn, bravely sitting here today, knows all too well. A further testament to this is the shockingly high rate of reported abuses. Thousands of complaints over the past decade have alleged psychological harm, sexual and bodily assault, physical and medical neglect, isolation, civil rights violations, and even death. In fact, over 350 young lives have been lost in this industry, a fact that heightens the urgency of our mission. An investigative report from the Salt Lake Tribune in 2020 revealed that between 2010 and 2020, 37 lawsuits were filed in Utah against troubled teen facilities. And 40% of those involved allegations of sexual misconduct. And of those, 10 involved staff members sexually abusing children. While the deceptive marketing on behalf of these programs has caused surges in enrollment, the methods employed and the outcomes achieved are often far from what's promised, as you've heard Finn highlight today. While allegedly designed to instill discipline, respect, and fix kids, the youth who go into these facilities have every aspect of their lives monitored. Contact with the outside world is cut off, and they have a complete loss of free will. Facilities often use methods that inflict more harm than good and seem only to break the spirit of the vulnerable youth they claim to help. The effects of these tough love practices are not isolated to the duration of the program either. Instead, they linger. And as survivors like Finn and I exit these programs, the invisible scars we've carried become evident in adulthood. Through my advocacy, I have really started to witness the true and long-term effects that living in this environment can cause in survivors' lives, such as complex post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and personality disorders. Survivors often struggle with unstable housing or homelessness. They can often experience a lack of employment and job training and have poorer educational outcomes. They lack opportunities to develop critical life skills. They're more likely to become delinquent, and they have increased chances of suicidality. The tragedy for these youths is that their abusers were often mental health professionals or authority figures in their facility, people who they were supposed to be able to trust. When the time comes for them to seek ongoing support, the idea of therapy itself can be triggering because it reminds them of the abuse. How are survivors going to receive ongoing support in their lives if the very thought of seeing a therapist triggers their trauma that was supposed to be their treatment? It seems that the ongoing trauma that survivors suffer from as a result of these programs is the treatment. The strain on family relationships is equally distressing, as families desperate to help their teens are often contributing to potential harm by enrolling them in these harmful environments. Once survivors leave these programs, the process of rebuilding trust and fostering healthy relationships with their families becomes a formidable challenge. This is not just a legal matter, but a public health crisis that demands our immediate attention. We cannot disregard the fact that young individuals seeking help and treatment within Utah are instead potentially subjected to environments that exacerbate their struggles and leave them with deep emotional wounds and fractured familial relationships. The courage of survivors like Finn is sparking an international conversation about the need for regulation and oversight. In response to growing public awareness and calls for reform, Utah passed Senate Bill 127 and Senate Bill 239, aiming to strengthen oversight of these facilities. While this represents a positive step, there remains much work to be done, because since the passing of these bills, there have been 4 deaths in Utah, facilities in your backyards, which emphasizes the necessity for more comprehensive reform. It is time for Utah, as a community, to demand change. We must demand stricter regulations, improved oversight, and most importantly, a shift in our approach to dealing with struggling teens. Punitive measures rarely yield the desired results. Our children deserve environments that foster growth, healing, and understanding. We must replace this industry with systems of care that genuinely prioritize the mental, emotional, and physical health of our youth. Ultimately, we must remember that these are not troubled youth. They are youth in trouble. They are not the problem. They are the promise of a brighter future, a future that, as a state and as a community, should be prioritized for all youth, no matter where they call home. Utah, a state known for its natural beauties, has unfortunately been overshadowed by a grim reality. The state has been tainted by the haunting reality of the abuse suffered by countless in and out-of-state youth. It is not what Utah should be known for, but for many, this is the reality. For many, Utah has become synonymous with the pain and trauma suffered here during their youth. It's a heartbreaking truth that there are countless adults today who have vowed never to return to Utah. The very thought of the state stirring up past traumas. This stark reality underscores the urgent need for change. It's time to transform Utah from a reminder of past hurt into a state known for its commitment to the protection and well-being of all children.
Kind of what I was
Survivor of 2 such facilities to the persistent pattern of maltreatment that has been left unchanged in the last 20 years since I was there. This destructive cycle must end. Our youth deserve a future free from harm, abuse, and neglect. Unsilenced is committed to empowering survivors like Finn and promoting transparency in an industry that discourages it from existing. Unsilenced is not just an organization. It's a movement helping survivors break the silence that plagued them and leading them to a place of validation so they can find healing and justice. Help us change that narrative. Call your representatives, call your local officials, demand change, demand transparency, demand safety for the youth in our communities. The abuse must stop, and it stops with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Finn. Thank you, Meg. You both did an excellent job. I just want to add my comments from a legal standpoint that these kids are oftentimes, as if Finn, kidnapped in the middle of the night. They have no idea where they're coming. They come here without parents. They come here without an attorney. They come out here without a guardian ad litem. They come out here with people who are using protocols that are not evidence-based. They're not scientific-based. They're punitive, and these kids are trapped. And Friday was the 1-year anniversary of the burial of Taylor Goodrich, who passed away because she was ignored and she was hated by the staff at Diamond Ranch Academy, which, because of brave people like this who came forward, shut down the Diamond Ranch Academy so that they can't hurt any other kids. But there's still a huge problem, and thank goodness that Finn had a mother and had an attorney and had a rabbi who listened to him, and then with a unbiased court-appointed psychiatric evaluation, found out that he shouldn't have been there in the first place. Finn is going to either go to Stanford or he's going to go to Princeton. He's got above a 4.0 GPA. He's brilliant. He's a great kid, and thankfully he got out of there. but not before he was totally let down and destroyed by elevations. So the purpose of this lawsuit is to bring accountability to this industry, to bring accountability to this facility, and to make sure that our kids, when they are brought here, are given evidence-based therapy that ends up helping them, springboarding them into life instead of shutting them down and almost making it certain that they won't be successful. Again, we thank you for your time and your attention this morning. And I think, Shannon, if you have any questions, we can take them. If not, we will shut down. You don't have to have questions.
I have a lot. Again. Finn, was there an on-ramp or like a breaking point that brought you here back to Utah? What encouraged you to pursue this path?
So we've been talking about this for a while. It's definitely been in the background because I knew as soon as I got back, I think one of the biggest things for me is that I knew that, I was leaving, but I was leaving in a way kind of like a family I'd made. And as more and more of my friends got back, I saw the ways in which they kind of just shrank and came back to these lives where they just fell into the same habits because they didn't have a space to. And I had a friend who lived near me and came back, and I saw the state that her parents treated her in, and I just said, no more. I can't keep watching this happen to myself and my friends. And I worked myself to get out, and I'm very fortunate for that. And I knew that, if I had that opportunity, the least I could do is to help other people who didn't have the same opportunities as I did.
Great. All right.
You want to ask them if they have any questions? Looks like we got Fox 13 and.
If anyone has any questions online, they can text them. All right. We'll go ahead and in the press conference. Thank you, Finn, for being here. Thank you,
Yeah.
Meg.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Amy Poole, Finn's mother, has accompanied him from Washington, D.C. And she's been a great support. So we'll go ahead and end the press conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we are also live on those. I don't know.